Afternoon, folks. I'll just sort out Facebook. Right, that's Facebook sorted out. Afternoon, folks. You know, it's at 2 Davies on the 5th of the 2nd, 2024, minus a Davy. The other one's in Bristol, doing his day job as a sound engineer. All right, so once we get Facebookers on board and we get up at the 100 mark, we'll get this broadcast underway. Okay, doggy. Anyway, let's have a look and see who's on, shall we? Hi, Malcolm, Ruth, Wee Bud, Rebecca, Mags, Wolf Pet, Regnalit. Hi, Regnalit. Enjoyed your show the other night. Folks, if you haven't looked at the Snowflake channel, have a look at it. It's brilliant. Who else? We've got Steve McNeil, Mark Telfer, Michael Smith, Chris. Hi, Chris. How are you, mate? You was tuning in for what? Oh, you're in Gran Canaria. Gran Canaria. Very good. On holiday. Hi, Mark. Don't seem to have any Facebookers in so far. No comment. Hi, we've got Gregor, Harry. Hi, Harry. Martin, Joe, Kirsten. Let's have a look for Facebook today. Bit slow. We'll get there. Hi, John. How are you, mate? Anyway, to say the other David is in Bristol. I spoke to him as he drove down yesterday. I think it was yesterday afternoon. He called me a bad time. Day off, so I had a couple of beers in me. I tend to rant a wee bit in that situation. No feed on Facebook. Let's have a look. Don't understand it. That's there. It's no went public, that's what's wrong. The audience. Sorry, Facebook, we're waiting on you, Tay. I'm afraid it's one of the restrictions that Facebook put on me. That's it public now. Hopefully we'll start to get some Facebook through now. As I say, it's one of the restrictions that Facebook's got on me. When I make a video, they make it friends only, or private even sometimes. I've got to always edit the audience, which is a pain in the butt. Right then, anyway, we're up to our 100 mark, so let's get this broadcast underway. To say, 2 Davies on the 5th of the 2nd, 2024, done in the style of Indie Truck Davy. So it's Indie Truck Davy out the truck, not home in his office in Salisbury, North Lancashire, where it is 10 degrees, overcast, windy and wet. That's the weather forecast for Salisbury, North Lancashire. If you want to know what the weather's like where you are, thank you, Madam Director. Look out your own bloody window. That's Facebook on board now. Hi, folks. Sorry about that. Facebook was playing folly buggers with me. Right, anyway, what we got for you today, right? COVID inquiry from UK. Aftermath from UK COVID inquiry in Scotland has been funny, eh? Scottish Government reviews, and now we'll get an investigation from the Information Commissioner to see if the deletion of informal social media communications is in breach of freedom of information law. So get that. All this WhatsApp hoo-ha and social media hoo-ha. Now we'll get the Information Commissioner looking at the deletion of these WhatsApp messages to see if it would be against or if it would be breaching freedom of information law. Right. So, anyway, the Information Commissioner, David Hamilton, said, and I'll quote, Failure to retain full record of the decision-making process has been subverted, meaning deleting these things. Well, Gob's polls out, is it? Thanks for that, Scott. Well, we look at that at another point. I can't bring it up now. But now he says it could contravene a freedom of information law because you can't see the full thought process. Well, decisions were made in cabinet. We know that because we were told that. But never mind that. This is the Information Commissioner. The very same Information Commissioner who the Scottish parliamentary body would have went in front of with the social media guidance for approval when it was initially put in place back when devolution came about, or in 2007 at the update, or at November 28, 2021 at the update. The Information Commissioner must have been aware of the Scottish Government, and the UK Government's got the same policy, by the way, of how they dispose of social media communications. So why the Information Commissioner is now looking into the deletion of WhatsApp messages is absolutely bamboozling to me. Because if the Information Commissioner didn't know what the rules were on the disposal of informal social media and members and ministers' phones was, then we have a problem. A big problem. So it's not really the Scottish Government or the Scottish ministers or even members of Parliament the Information Commissioner should be having an inquiry into. He should be having a look at his own bloody house to see why it is that they've approved the social media guidance for the Scottish Parliament. They've approved guidance which they're now saying could break freedom of information law. This is another dead cat on the table. What's interesting about it is, Alistair Jack, the Scotland Office Minister, the Governor General of the Colony of Scotland, he walks into the COVID inquiry and says, I could delete them on needing the space on my phone. No fucking who are doing that road. There's nobody doing that road setting up inquiries into how social media is disposed of or dealt with by members and ministers. When we hear, even though the guidance is clear and it's there for all to see on the Scottish Parliament website, and it was updated 28th of November 2023. Sorry, 2021. So if the Information Commissioner didn't know this, and that the guidance that they were approving would breach freedom of information law, then the Information Commissioner wants to be looking at himself. He doesn't want to be looking at the Scottish Government. He doesn't want to be looking at the Scottish Government guidance. He wants to be looking at why his office would have given the OK for that guidance if it broke freedom of information law. So, dead cat. And if anything, as Indy Scott Bryan's put in the comments, if anything, the Information Commissioner was asleep at the wheel. Because they approved the guidance. It's nuts. So, to be fair, folks, it's getting boring now. Investigation into that, investigation into this, investigation into that. Where's all these investigations going on in Westminster? Into use of social media, into dodgy contracts. As was pointed out by a wee woman in Question Time the other night there. Don't know if I've got the clip actually. I'll maybe play it for you. Let's have a wee look, see, we'll go to the clip here. I've got it here. We'll stick this clip up for you because this really rounds up what's going on. And the reaction to this clip as well for the audience is brilliant. So this is a for X, for Lady Veritas's feed. I'll just share it now, put it up, because I thought this was probably the way the rest is in Scotland feel about the nonsense in the press. You know? So let's stick this up and we'll play it. Video.
With a black scarf, I think, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I find the hypocrisy quite breathtaking, actually. You have a former Prime Minister who was heading up a culture of partying, law-breaking, corruption, cronyism and money, and has not submitted a single WhatsApp with the most ridiculous excuses. You've got a current Westminster Prime Minister who also hasn't submitted a single WhatsApp. He can't recall anything. I think it was 30-odd times during this. And I feel that Nicola Sturgeon it's just a witch hunt. I actually think she has stood up for Scotland. I think she did what she could in the most trying situations, and this is absolutely political. I think it's a disgrace.
Okay.
And the applause there just sort of sums it up. That's how people here in Scotland are feeling about this bloody crap in the press. Because that's what it is, it's crap in the press. And now there's going to be more public money wasted in a review in the Scottish Parliament and now an investigation by the Information Commissioner, when who the Information Commissioner should be investigating is themselves, his office. Okay, let's move on. Now, the latest Scottish institution to come under attack from the propaganda machine and the mainstream media is Scottish Water. Now, apparently there's a hoo-ha because a Scottish Water are raising the prices by 8.8% this year. Now, apparently for the last few years it's been ticking up. I guess people haven't paid much attention over the last few years. Anyway, apparently come April, when we all get our new water bill and our new council tax bill, we will be getting an 8.8% increase in our water bills. And Davies is going to tell you it's worth it. It is worth every penny to have a public institution like Scottish Water in public hands, producing fine quality clean water in our rivers and in our taps. It is worth every bloody penny if we look at the disaster down that road with the failing privatised water companies, the amount of effluence which is being pumped daily into the rivers and then sucked back out for them to drink. Nuts. Now, Scottish Water have undertaken a lot of upgrading to the network over the last few years. At the moment, they're improving the sewers network in Glasgow and across the Central Belt. They've got the cost of maintaining the network of pipes. They've got the waterworks and the sewage works, and the cost of running all these things, thanks to the disastrous steering of the economy by the Westminster government, then they went up. They went up by 4.2 in 22, 5.5% in 23, and another 8.8% here. But the network's going to be maintained. The cost of labour's went up because of inflation. The cost of materials has went up because of Brexit. But we need to have clean, fresh water, and we need to keep Scottish Water in public hands. So when they're slagging off great Scottish public services and institutions like Scottish Water, then we have to defend it, folks. Because if we don't, we're going to end up in the same mess they are in England. And that is a bloody mess. And I mean that. So, you know, it's just not what we need. So, if we have a look at some of the damage that's been done to the economy by the Tories over the last 14 years, we've got 300,000 deed to austerity, 14 million people living in poverty, 4.1 million people living in extreme poverty, and 1.1 million people suffering from destitution. And on top of that, of course, we've got Brexit, inflation, world conflict. Of course, everything's went up in price. Everything's went up in price. But it's still worth every penny to keep Scottish water in Scottish hands. Thank you, Stirlers. Thank you very much. So, folks, everything's went up. To be fair, the price of water hasn't went up quite as much as anything else. We're talking like over the last 3 years, it's went up 8, 16%. Electricity is up by a couple of 100%. Gas is up by a couple of 100%. Food prices up by God knows what per sector. So there you go. It's still a bargain. But what? Of course, Scottish Water's taking a spanking the new for it. So there you go. Right, talking to the BBC and the mainstream media, sort of distorting information here. I see the BBC are still trying to flog the idea that the people of Scotland have to vote Labour for Labour to win a UK election. Now, apparently they're targeting 28 key seats, but I doubt they'll take them. But also, they think they'll get a chance at 28 seats in Scotland. But they're putting this idea that without these 28 seats in Scotland, Labour won't be able to form a government. That's not true. That's not true. Everybody in Scotland could vote Labour. And if everybody in England votes Tory, we'll get a Tory government. It doesn't matter how the Scottish, the Welsh or the Northern Irish people vote. It's always about how the English people vote. The English people always get what they vote for. The people of Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland never get what they vote for. Never. That's what's called the democratic deficit in the UK. Every single MP in Scotland could come for, so I say the SNP. But it wouldn't make any difference to a majority for either Labour or Tory in the Westminster Parliament if that's how the people of England decide to vote. And if all this crap we're hearing down that road's correct, the very last thing that Labour needs at this point in time, according to the polls down that road, is a single seat in Scotland. They don't need one. They'll probably take 3 or 4, maybe as high as 5 or 6. But they don't need one. But of course, it could well be, as Tina's pointed out in the Facebook comments, that Starmer has lost a lot of votes through the. Sorry, wrong one. Put that one up. Starmer's lost Labour most of the Muslim vote. That's very true. And as I spoke about a couple of weeks ago, the BBC, Sky, ITV, and the Alliance, the Press Alliance, had done a study that showed how difficult it would be for Starmer to get a majority. But if the polls in that road are to be believed, he doesn't need a single seat in Scotland. And if the people of Scotland want a fair deal, whether they want independence or no, they want a fair deal, then they're better supposed to vote in SNP. But if they vote SNP this time, they know what they're voting for because it'll be in the manifesto. Vote SNP for independence. But as I say, the press are still spinning this crap that Labour can't win the election without Scottish seats. And it's not true. Okay. Right, where are we? Let's move on. I see Mr. Salmon's quoting controversy. It appears that Mr. Salmon decided to take another crack at broadcasting on another country's mainstream media. And this time, Mr. Salmon has joined Turkey's TV channel, TRT broadcaster. He's to host a chat show called Turkey's Tea Talk. And the BBC have gone on the attack right away. Thanks very much, Alison. Funds best to David McMillan in the next few million in the next few weeks. Thanks, mate. Anyway, I was talking David McMillan. So the first thing the BBC did on hearing the news that Mr. Salmon has joined TRT is to tell us all that critics say that TRT, wait, you get this, TRT is the propaganda arm of the Turkish government under Erdogan. Well, you know, David loves a bit of irony, but that's kicking the arse out of it. That's to popcorn the kettle black. The BBC, the propaganda wing of the Westminster Parliament, here in these islands and across the world, calling a Turkish TV channel a propaganda machine. You couldn't make this up. You really couldn't. The other thing about the BBC and this pushing Labour and all, and the idea that you can't have there will not be a Labour government without Scottish seats. As far as I can see, and the way I'm reading this stuff that's being published by the BBC, they're actually breaking their impartiality rules. They're not supposed to side with political parties or promote political parties. But as I say, the BBC calling TRT a propaganda machine. But as I say, it would appear Mr. Sam has not learned his lesson. For his sojourn on for his time on Russia Today. Now, I don't know if this TRT is broadcast here through maybe one of the streaming services. But if it's no, what's the point of Mr. Salmon doing a show for TRT? I didn't know he spoke Turkish. Anyway, apparently his first guest for whatever platform this is going out on is Brian Cox. So it should be entertaining. Alright. Right, moving on. And it's been reported that the Scottish Prison Service is full to capacity. And cannot take any more prisoners. I find that very hard to believe. So when you dig a wee bit further in, it tells us that the prison capacity is just about there. There's 8,000 people in Scottish prisons at the moment. Remember, in England and Wales, the prisons are also at capacity. So it seems to be a UK-wide phenomenon. There just isn't enough places in the clink for the amount of criminals we're producing, apparently. But, so, what they're going to do about it, I suppose, is the question. Now, the head of the prison service, Ed has said they were now at a point where they've reached the tipping point and can't take any more prisoners at or over the coming months. That really is a problem, folks, because that means capacity is not there in the middle of a cost of living crisis where petty crime's going to go through the bloody roof. Hi Elizabeth, how are you? Still in Gran Canaria, are you? So things like petty crime and shoplifting and that are on the rise because of the cost of living crisis. People are struggling to feed themselves, struggling to feed their children. They're going to need capacity. Either that, we're going to have to tag people and give them community sentences. But that means increasing the workforce that work with the community sentences, those who deal with community sentencing within the councils and things like that. So this one is concerning. Now, I guess we can always have a look down that road, seeing they've been at capacity for, I think it was 3-4 months ago that England announced it was at capacity, and see how they're dealing with it. Now, as far as I remember, the way they were dealing with it was they were letting people out of jail. And in order to clear enough capacity, they were letting people out of jail who had also been violent offenders. Let's hope we don't have to get to that point here. But it might be a good idea to stop jailing people for stupidness. Right, so that is a concern, folks. The prison service is at capacity. That's not a good story. Now, this next one is one that it's really starting to pique my interest, because the way I'm looking at the two big political parties on these islands, Labour and Tory, they're in full election mode. I mean, that's 2 weekends in a row I've had canvassers out for Labour in this village. There's been letter drops and there's been all sorts going on. I'm beginning to get the idea that Sunak's telling the smaller parties is an October election. But I think it looks like it might be. The way they're campaigning like it's going to be a May election. Maybe the SNP want to wake up to this, and maybe the other smaller parties. If they put their ear to the ground and have a look at what's happening round about them, they're going to notice that Labour are campaigning like hell here in Scotland. I don't know what the Tories are doing there, but I've had 3 letters after Tories in the last 2 weeks. Right, Kirsty, just found the stream. Sorry about that. Anyway, I think this would definitely be a tactic the unionists would use to blindside the SNP, knowing what's going on in their manifesto. But as I say, Labour are all over the place at the moment, folks. So I hope the SNP are paying attention. I think they could get blindsided here, and the other small parties. But, I mean, the tactic would be great for Labour and Tory and the unionists in Scotland, but it would also be great for Labour and Tory to blindside the smaller parties in England and keep up their two-way hegemony on democracy. So, hi Gingers, you're late. Naughty step, don't burn your arse in the candle. Oh, it looks like a candle, it is. Anyway, I say we might be getting blindsided here. The SNP and any other parties here in Scotland need to step up to the plate. Eyes on the prize, folks. Eyes on the prize. Get a grip of your local branch of whatever party it is that isn't a unionist party and let them know something's afoot. Right. I'm hoping that is a later election, but we get a chance to get a good build-up to it, and the suffering and the misery that's coming in April, to add to the suffering and misery that's just started to now. We're just starting to see the backlog. Add April, and then add October in. This is going to be fun. I want a November election. By that time, the people of Scotland will be that pissed off. Voting SNP will be a shooty in. Right. Let's move on. Stormont's up and running again. Hey. Now I watched them voting in the new speaker. And then I watched Michelle O'Neill give her speech on how she was going to serve all the people of Northern Ireland. She didn't say peoples, she said all the people of Northern Ireland. And that she would be faithful in the discharging of her duties. But not all the speeches were conciliatory, although most of them were. Watch them one after another going up to say they'll serve their constituents faithfully, they'll try and work together in the Parliament, so on and so forth. Except for one dissenting voice, I can't remember what wee Torag's name was, but he got up and accused the DUP of being sellouts, and that there was still a border in the Irish Sea. But he was so hardline. I guess he wants the border on the island of Ireland. But now, of course, Sunak is earlier doing a victory dance, isn't he? Something's went right for him for a change. So he's quite rightly earlier doing a victory dance. Now, how did Sunak get Stormont up and running again? Well, it's quite simple. You should have thought of this the first time round. If you want anything to run in Northern Ireland, don't call it green. The unionists don't like it. So what did they do? They changed the green lane for fast-tracking UK goods into Northern Ireland to the UK goods only lane, taking out the word green, and bunged them a hell of a lot of money. That's how it happened. Oh, a couple of bits of legislation to say that the Westminster wouldn't pass a law changing standards away, basically, for EU standards, because they're still in the EU single market without consulting Stormont. And then, of course, when they've got the Stormont backstop, whereas if they think the EU is doing something that will affect trade with the UK, then Stormont can bring it to the attention of the EU and the UK, the backstop. So that's how we got them back in. Basically, took the word green out of the green lane and replaced it with UK only goods only lane, and then bunged them a shitload of money. First thing on the agenda, negotiations on the financing of the province, how Northern Ireland is funded. So Stormont's back up and running, and let's hope they can put their shoulders to the wheel, nose to the grindstone, whatever term you want, and start sorting things out. Class action, I know there's a £3.4 billion. But they're still waiting on the £1 billion bung for the last time. You're right. Yeah, okay. Having Westminster offered you anything is like it's like smoke in the wind. It very quickly disappears. Thanks, Lisa. Sorry, Liz. Thanks, Liz. That's very generous of you. I need to get my glasses updated. Yeah. So that's what happened. So Stormont's up and running. Let's see how long it lasts. Because when you're talking about Stormont, you've got being up and running, you've got to say it's up and running for now. Right, and another man doing that road. Rishi Sunak has now admitted he has failed to bring down NHS waiting times in England. 7.6 million in England are now on a waiting list for non-urgent attention, and that's up 400,000 on 2023. Now, as we're now seeing attacks here in Scotland on NHS Scotland coming through the propaganda machine at this point in time, with this news coming out that Sunak hasn't been able to do anything about the waiting lists in England, expect the propaganda machine here in Scotland to pounce straight onto NHS Scotland and start getting bashed into NHS Scotland again. Alright, because that's generally how it works. Something goes shit down that road, so they turned on the Scottish institution or the Scottish equivalent, so that we all think that everything's the same right across these islands, when actually we know they're not. You know, the people of England are being treated like fucking turnips as well, or mushrooms if you like. We're all being kept in the dark and fed shit. It's just they're getting it delivered in their drinking water. Okay. So, when you think about it, the wonderful institution that which was NHS to England is now on its arse and up for sale. And that's what's going to happen to Scottish NHS. I don't know if you know this, folks, but during the COVID pandemic inquiry here in Scotland, wee Govey said something interesting. and that was that under the Civil Act of 2004, Westminster could have legislated to take control of the Scottish NHS during the COVID pandemic. The wee Govey said he thought that would be a bit draconian, so Westminster was advised against it. But it was brought up. Now remember, when they privatised the NHS down that road, even quicker now, there's less funding comes up the road through the Barnett consequentials for our NHS. So we will be forced down the same road as being forced through in England. The only difference is the Americans will really want our healthcare system because none of your hospitals are fucking 40 bats. I really do feel sorry for the people of England. At least we've got brand new hospitals everywhere. And well-maintained hospitals. But folks, we will be forced down the same road. There's no point in kidding on about it. As they privatise more and more, there's less money going to the NHS in England, there's less money coming to the NHS in Scotland, we will be forced down the same route. Okay, let's move on. Bloombergs are reporting that Brexit is costing the UK economy 100 billion a year in output, which would match the data we're getting coming out on growth. The 0.2% growth, which was a forecast for the third quarter last year, has now been revised down to flatline, 0% growth. And 0.1% growth, which was in the final quarter last year, has now been revised down to minus 0.1%. So a negative territory. The economy is in contraction, and the loss to the economy, to the tax and everything else, jobs, everything, is 100 billion a year because of Brexit. I'll tell you what, I keep hearing Sunak talk about plans. Stick to the plan, stick to the plan, stick to the plan. What is the fucking plan? Wreck everything, burn everything, and run for the hills after you stole everything. You're right, Nathan, I shouldn't feel sorry for the people of England, but I do. After all, they voted for it, you're absolutely correct. And as I pointed out earlier, when it comes to the democratic deficit, they voted for it, we fucking got it. But they have very little in the way of an alternative. And unless they change the voting system down that road, you're going to have the same homogeny. And we've seen them pulling the same stunts that the Australian government's been pulling and all to maintain the two-party system there by restricting the amount that independents and smaller parties can raise, but still giving them money for the public purse to keep them existent. You know, we're seeing that here. England is turning into a two-party system. But, as I say, yes, you're right, they did vote for it. But I do feel sorry for them. You know, they knew not what they did. The press there is as bad as the press here. Here we get unionist shit pressed upon us and we're told we're crap at everything. Down there they get right-wing piss pumped on them. Divide and rule. So there you go. That's 100 billion of output lost in a never contracting economy. And they're all talking about World War III. I see there was a report in The Guardian, an article in The Guardian, telling the new Labour government, when it comes in, it's going to lose Northern Ireland, it'll probably lose Scotland, unless it devolves proper fiscal powers to Scotland. I thought, we don't want a fucking crochet table. We want a way for you. Yous are nutters. Look at what you've done. The first bloody country in the history of the world to impose economic sanctions on itself. Also complicit in breaking international law and genocide and war crimes. And we're all fucking tarred with the same brush. We didn't vote for these people. So, the damage to the economy, on the bright side, Scotland's no suffering. Scotland's economy is no suffering as badly as England's economy at this point in time. Northern Ireland's economy, if they get moving again, should start ticking up now. But just shows you the economic madness of Brexit. Right, this one, I wanted to talk about because it reflects the attitude of the UK government to the colony of Scotland. The BBC ran a piece that said that there was an investigation into the Scottish Civil Service because it had gone native. Here's the term. Native. The Scottish Civil Service had gone native. It had broke free from its imperial overlords, apparently, and gone native. I thought we were all one people. I thought we were all one big happy family. How could the Scottish Civil Service be gone native if we're all British? Well, you know, the way our UK speaks about Scotland, you'd think they'd already left. One thing's for sure, though, they know we're bloody leaving. Latest poll, 82% under 25-year-olds want out of this mess. It gets lower as we got the age group, but that's the future. The future will have what it wants. And but this term, the Scottish Civil Service has gone native. Native. Chris is in the audience here. I wonder how he feels about being told he's went native. He's a Scottish civil servant. So there you go. That's the attitude to doing that road. And we've heard somebody captain out a penny modern again lately. That horror might be the next bloody PM. Yeah. But I wonder when they're talking about going native, is that the ones they shipped up here in 2014 to help rig the vote? Have they now gone native? They really don't understand what they're doing, do they? No. They really don't get it. Civil servants working for the Scottish Government in Scotland have gone native. That tells you how they view us. That tells us about their imperial attitude. That tells us about their superior attitude. That tells us all we need to know. And you're right, Alistair. Scottish, no British. But it's hilarious. Absolutely funny stuff. Right, before we go, we'll have a quick, because I normally only do 45 minutes as Indie Talk Davey, but we'll push it out a wee bit. But I had to talk about this one, you know. In fact, I might even put it up. Let's have a look. Here we go. UK headline news. Let's get in. See if we can get this a wee bit bigger. There we go. Let's stick this up, folks. You won't believe this. This was on the BBC as well. By the way, this is Yahoo. I'm about to show you one, but on the BBC as well. Let me get shunted to one side. Look at that. Scottish civil servants accused of going native in support of SNP. Oof! They say that's their attitude, folks. That is their attitude. Absolutely stunning. Right, let's have a wee run round and see what's going on in the Middle East. Okay. Right, where we go? Israel-Gaza war, they're calling it. It's no war. It's a bloody slaughter. 25,000 now reported dead. God knows how many under the rubble. And Western officials in protest over Israel-Gaza policy, and it would appear US and Canadian officials are no chuffed with US and Canadian stance, and more than 800 civil serving officials in the US and Europe have signed a statement warning that their own government's policies on Israel-Gaza war could amount to grave violations of international law. So it would appear that civil servants across Europe and across America are starting to get queasy. Because in Europe, the UK, America, we all have laws on genocide. And we all have laws preventing our governments from supporting anybody who's suspected of committing genocide. Where else we go? Turkey arrests 7 for passing information to Israel. US sanctions Israel settlers over West Bank violence. And Houthis claim hit on US container ship in Red Sea. Analysis also shows that the US and UK strikes failed to slow Houthi attacks in the Red Sea. We're also hearing that half of the buildings in Gaza have now been destroyed or have been damaged. And apparently great historical sites and churches and mosques have been destroyed in Gaza. And there's the UN aid agency there. There's a huge push to get funds in because of the defunding of it by the US, Canada, the UK, Australia, and a few other places, because Israel has claimed that 12 members of a 15,000 workforce helped Hamas in the October 7th attack. What's interesting about that is, to date, Israel have made that claim. They made it right after the International Court of Justice's ruling. But to date, as far as I am aware, they have not been able to produce evidence of such involvement of 12 members of a 15,000 strong workforce. So that's a roundup. And of course, Hamas apparently are reportedly looking at a ceasefire agreement. I find that hard to believe. Israel doesn't want a ceasefire. Meanwhile, in Ukraine, apparently in the Ukraine war, the UK are flouting oil embargoes because Russian oil is getting in the UK via refinery loopholes. UN top court can rule on Ukraine case against Russia, or to rule. EU leaders unlocks 50 billion support package for Ukraine. And apparently there's been some French volunteers killed in Ukraine and all. A couple of planes have been whacked down in Ukraine. There you go, folks. That's the 2 major conflicts we're hearing of anyway. There's a lot more out there if you want to have a look. You know, so that's a roundup I've got for you folks. I didn't bother with PMQs or FMQs because it was just a bloody punch and judy match. Nothing's ever resolved in these chambers. They just throw allegations and speculation about, call them debating chambers. Nah, not as long as we'll get cuckoos in the nest in Holyrood, and as long as we'll get bam pots down that road in Westminster wanting to put on a show to keep the homogeneity of the main two political parties down there. Okay. Right, that's what I've got for you today, folks. Thank you, Paul. Got a new job, and you want to pass on some of the... Yeah, thanks very much, Paul, really. It will all go out and it will all help, I can assure you. It really will. And it's the help that's really needed. As I say, quoting the figures since the Tories came to power, the amount of people who have died. 300,000 to austerity. Do you know, that's government policy that's killed 300,000 people. Now, that's genocide in my mind. Genocide. And congratulations on your job, Paul. Genocide in my mind, folks. 14.1 million people living in poverty. 4.1 million people living in abject poverty. 1.1 million people experience destitution, the worst form of poverty, where you can't even feed yourself, heat yourself, wash yourself, clothe yourself. So it is. Billy, you still on with this vote? Your vote's your consent to keep the genocide going. Well, so we all just won't vote, Billy. And what they'll do is, instead of changing government, they'll just keep the existing structure and put some technocrats in, eh? Okay. Right, folks. I want to thank you all for tuning in today. Viewing figures are fantastic. 338 on both platforms. 238 on both platforms. That's a cracking. That's a great live audience. Thank you very much. Okay. Now listen, folks. Thanks for your contributions. Could you do us a favour? Hit the like button on YouTube. It helps with the algorithm. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And the other thing that helps with the algorithm is for this to be shared across your social media platforms. Okay. So if you're on YouTube, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're on Facebook and haven't subscribed on YouTube, please, we're on the first to get to 2,000. All right. And thanks for tuning in today. I know style's a wee bit different when it's just me, and sometimes the details are a wee bit better. Never mind. We do miss having the other Davies here to batter off of. He does like to lead us down the odd rabbit hole and segue off in mad directions. And that's always fun. Anyway, folks, I'll be back today all again on Thursday. So look after yourselves and have a cracking day. And look after each other. Bye for now.